In this video today, I'm going to speak about job interview questions for a strength and conditioning coach. And even if you're a first, second year sports science student, it's really key that you understand the sort of questions you'll be asked in the future. Understand them now to give yourself the best possible chance of answering them when you get to that position. One question quite early in the interview could be, tell us about your coaching philosophy. So depending on the sport, what is your approach? What are your values? What are your principles? What are the key aspects of your coaching philosophy in that sport? And do you have a one-size-fits-all approach to training athletes? Do you treat all athletes individually? How do you adapt to different environments that you work in? Because your philosophy could change depending on the sport, depending on the team, the environment that you go and work in. And this is why it's really important that you get experience during your degree. You're not expected to be a great S&C coach when you finish your undergraduate degree, but you certainly sound a lot more interesting if you have a philosophy. You've done some placements with some local teams, local organizations. You actually have stories to tell. You actually have experience where you've implemented ideas and a philosophy. Secondly, innovation. Can you give an example of when you applied something that was innovative in your coaching? I say that because it feels like everyone wants to be an S&C coach. There's nothing wrong with that. I did that. I loved it. But a lot of people want to do it. So you do need to find ways that you can stand out. And you need to give, again, examples of what you've done in the past. You need to find something a little bit different about you. It could be the use of technology, just a certain training method that was new. Talk about that. What did you do? What was the outcome? And as I've mentioned, you've got to get experience. You can't speak about innovation if you haven't innovated anything. So really, really important. Even if you innovate something at a very low level, don't look at that as, well, that level's too low. It's not interesting enough to a professional team. It will be. It shows that you actually went out there, used time wisely during your degree, got some experience, and had the confidence and initiative to put some ideas forward. Another question could be related to non-compliant athletes. It's only something I really realized when I went to work at professional level. So working with recreational athletes, most of them just want to do it. You don't meet many difficult athletes. But at professional level, not all athletes will buy into it. You can meet athletes with a big ego, they're on a lot of money. They don't really see the value of stuff that's away from competition. And you will learn this through experience. As I said, I didn't learn it too much from recreational experience, tiny bit. That's why it's really key that you try and get some shadowing at a professional team if you can throughout your degree. And what I'd say is, throughout the whole process of working with athletes, try and find ways to engage with them, develop your problem solving skills. So if a player doesn't want to do something, if they have a bad attitude, well, how do you react to that? You need that experience so you can provide those anecdotes and examples at an interview. This is something that I didn't have in my recreational experience again, because we didn't have a physiotherapist in any teams I worked for. But this question, can you give an example of when you worked with an injured athlete? What was the outcome? For me, I had tunnel vision of S&C, of just gym, 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 fit, healthy players, getting to the next level. Then I went to work at a professional team and half my players were injured. So experience is key. That's why if you are looking for placements, it's an advantage if there's a physio, if there's a multidisciplinary team. That can be a bonus because then you can get used to working with different challenges. And yeah, as I already mentioned, it's not about working with fit athletes. And if you show that awareness at an interview, it's not just about the fit, healthy players, it's getting players back throughout their rehabilitation process. And with that in mind, I would look at journal articles, listen to podcasts, watch videos, learn as much as you can about return to play rehab protocols. Lastly, you don't have to focus too much on the fact I'm speaking about speed and agility specifically, but there'll be certain aspects of S&C you could be asked about. So, well, what's your philosophy or what's your idea of strength training in rugby union? What would you do? You could get a question very specific. How would you approach that? So you will learn that sort of stuff in class. You'll learn the basics in your S&C and physiology modules, but it probably won't be enough. You need to go away, learn about your own specific sport, reading books, journal articles, podcasts, etc., and apply this. So don't just speak about the science in the job interview. Well, I read a paper and it said this. That won't wash. You need to show that awareness of research, but also say, well, yeah, I've read this, I've read that, but in my experience, this is what I've done. This was the outcome. So it's really, really key to summarize that you can show an understanding of both. If it's just practice and you get asked a question as a follow-up, well, what led you to that decision? What research did you read or did you follow to get to that? If you say, well, I don't know, I just did it, again, it doesn't sound great. So you need the two of them. So to summarize this, again, you could be a first, second year student thinking, well, these interviews are years away, but they might be, but you need to understand what you need to do. And one of those things is get experience. Get experience at a lower level. Just immerse yourself in strength conditioning in any sport, any activity. Don't just be that person who's a one-trick pony in a particular sport. I did all sorts of sports during my experience in S&C of basketball, football, gymnastics, even sports I hadn't done before as a participant. So don't be afraid to try different stuff. It's really, really important to summarize at the end here. Read the research, podcasts, journal articles, books. As I just said a minute ago, you need those practical skills, but you need the knowledge to back that up, and that will come from those sources. Okay, so I've had many an interview for S&C jobs, so if you do want to learn more about the questions I've had, some of the failures I've had as well, these applications, really, really happy to talk about that. The usual platform, so Sports Science Hacks on Instagram and Twitter at CJ Thompson 90. Okay, thanks for listening, and I'll speak to you again soon.